Did you know that March is Women's History Month? And we want to recognize one very special deaf woman. She used to be an amazing dancer who inspired people during World War II. She brought joy to a lot of people, and they were flabbergasted that she was such an excellent dancer being deaf. Somebody even yelled behind her to test her hearing. We have a lot of great stories on this channel. Go ahead and click subscribe. So her name is Florita Tellez, and then later after she married, she changed her last name to Corey. She was born in Mexico, and she is fully deaf. And then later she moved to America. And at that point, she really took to the stage and excelled. She even knew Bob Hope, who is known for a lot of his entertainment and shows that he put on. Florita traveled the world with an organization called United Service Organization, which was a well-known organization. The military would invite stars and different people to come and dance and put on shows. During that time, they would fundraise for war bonds. And that's how people would donate money after watching a show. They would get a bond in return, and that money would go to sustain the war. Florita and her dance partner would be waiting, and then Bob Hope would go ahead and announce that they were the next ones up. Jose and Florita would come up, and Bob Hope would say, "Florita is deaf," and the audience couldn't believe it. She is deaf? A deaf dancer? So there's actually a story about what happened, and Florita's son, Ed Chevvy, will explain what happened when someone from the military came behind her and screamed in her ear. Well, I remember there was one story that happened with Bob Hope during his tour. The announcer went ahead and explained, who was coming up, and they said Jose and Florita, the two of them, the duo would be coming up to perform, and announced Florita was deaf. The audience was kind of dumbstruck. She's deaf and she dances? Well, you see, she would use these little things in her hand, these little almost instruments called castanets, and those castanets would help her keep the rhythm of the dancing. So she would tick, 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 and she would follow along with the dancing. She had great rhythm as a deaf person, and that's how she did it. So she kept up with her dance partner, and those who were watching were shocked. On every tour, they were shocked. They couldn't believe. So one of those moments, a military serviceman came up behind her. And my mom, of course, had no idea, and he just belted. He screamed behind her. He let it out. And he yelled and he yelled. My mom stood unresponsive. He couldn't believe she actually is deaf. Wow, they couldn't believe this deaf woman could perform like that. Her dance partner actually told her, that guy just came behind and screamed. She said, "Really?" She didn't know, she couldn't hear it. But it was pretty phenomenal, especially at that time, that deaf people, they could do amazing things like that. It was wonderful, and she kept time with those castanets. So that was one story my mom told me. I always enjoyed hearing that. Florita was born in Mexico in a small town named Cananea. She had 15 brothers, no sisters, and she was the last baby. She was the only girl. At about 2 years old, she became sick from whooping cough, and that's what caused her to be profoundly deaf. However, she does have some deaf and hard of hearing family members in her lineage. So she grew up, she married a deaf man, and they had 3 children who were all deaf. But most of the family, her husband, her son Ed Chevvy, her daughter Rita, they all were performers of sorts, with different music and dancing. Even her granddaughter, Renca Dunn, she's involved in performance as well. She does video performance, she makes vlogs, social media. It must run in their blood. Must have been carried through the years. Specifically related to performing dance and music. So now Renca has something she'd like to say about her grandma. Grandma Florita, oh my goodness, one of the hardest working people I've ever met. Very dedicated. She never gave up. Great persistence. Really, she was ahead of her time. I'd always watch my mom tell me stories about Grandma Florita and her experience, her accomplishments, who she was. And I was always shocked. Wow, Just imagine back there, there wasn't even social media. Imagine if she had those accomplishments back then and they were able to be broadcast on social media. Forget about it. She would be viral. I've always been so proud of Grandma Florita. Due to life circumstances, I didn't have the chance to grow up with Grandma Florita. But later in life, we did get the opportunity to reconnect and have some good conversations. I remember as she was nearing her death, I went to visit her. And Grandma Florita was lying on the bed. And there was a picture above her. And that picture was her when she was a flamenco dancer. Oh, and it was a beautiful picture. Grandma Florita said, "Do you see that?" And she pointed to her. I said, "Yes, I see it, Grandma." "That was me. That's me." I said, "Yes, it is." She said, "Please always remember me like this. Please, like in that picture." Wow, that was really heartfelt for me. So I'll always remember Grandma Florita, who she was, her accomplishments as a strong deaf woman. She made a difference. Florita attended a deaf school at the age of 9 in Tucson, the Tucson Deaf School. She was fortunate enough to be able to attend that school because she had a brother who made it into Arizona, and she was able to go alongside him. Her fascination with dance just continued to grow, and she decided to leave school, and she went to the School of Beauty, and she majored in dance. She ended up going to Cusick Dance School, and that's how she met her dance partner, Jose. The two of them worked out a system with each other, and Bob Hope noticed how their dancing was improving and growing and asked them to tour, and they just blossomed from there. Though she did have many challenges as a deaf person, people would look at her and say, "Wow, I can't believe you know how this music is working even though you're profoundly deaf." She just had a knack for the rhythm. Sometimes she would follow her dance partner, Jose. She'd follow his rhythm, and the two of them would work along in tandem. She wore heels that helped her with the rhythm, and she also used those castanets on her hands. And that's how she kept rhythm with her dance partner. She specialized in Spanish dances, but her wheelhouse was flamenco. That dance you'll see here in a video. This is not Florita herself, but you'll get an idea of what flamenco looks like. See, that dance Florita was able to do with excellence, and people were always just awestruck and taken aback by her skill. She continued dancing until she got married and had children, and then she did dancing for different things, for different events. She did some different Gallaudet alumni events, and she helped fundraise money to contribute for a painting to honor Dr. Elizabeth Peet. People came and attended to watch her dancing, raised money, and then they were able to give that painting to honor Dr. Peet. Her dancing was a shining time in history. Ever since then, deaf people continue to honor and admire her accomplishments.